Hey folks, welcome into another Friday Five. We're going to do a couple of shows here about auctions, and one of the great things about working at Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates, is there's so many different people who have expertise in different areas. One of those is Greg Goff, who has been kind enough to let me eavesdrop and lean on his shoulder a little bit. But besides being I'm not going to say the self-proclaimed, but the king of Cannon County real estate. He also got into auctions several years ago, and kind of explained to folks why you started dabbling into auctions. Is it because you're basically in more of a rural area a lot of times doing your work?
Well, actually, I dabbled into auctions because I was always interested in auctions when I got into real estate. It opened up another avenue of course, income for me. It also gave me, I like to be a well-rounded agent. I like to know about everything I can know about, sellers, buyers, auctions. I like working with sellers more than I do buyers particularly. So auctions are, I'm always representing the seller in an auction. Always remember that when you're in an auction, you represent the seller.
That's right. And with that in mind, there are different kinds of auctions out there. So what kind of different auctions might people see advertised, whether it's in the paper or online or wherever?
Well, there's two types of auctions on different types of properties. You'll have absolute and reserve. Absolute means it sells no matter what it's going to bring. It's got, it's going to sell no matter what. It don't matter if, if it's a $100,000 house, it brings $50,000, it's going to sell. It's an absolute auction. A reserve auction is where the seller protects the reserve. They have reserve, which is undisclosed. Once that reserve is met, it will then be sold. But until the reserve is met, it's not going to be sold. It's a protection for the seller.
Yeah. The one thing we see a lot of in this area, how many calls do we get that says, hey, I'm looking for 5 acres to build a house on? We're seeing a lot of folks who might have that 20, 30, 40, 50 acre piece of land that they decide they want to break it up and sell off 5 acre lots. A lot of times auctions are a good way to go about that.
Auctions are one of the best ways to go about that, simply because when we break it up, of course, the smaller the tract, the more money per acre you're going to receive. So if you're taking a 20 acre tract that you would normally get, say, 8,000 an acre for, or maybe 10,000 an acre for, when we sell a 5 acre tract, we could get $15,000 to $20,000 an acre. But when you sell that 5 acre tract and you take five acre tracts on a 25 acre farm and divide it off, you can do the math. It comes out a lot better for the seller in the long run.
Yeah.
And the cost of doing that is minimal. On a 25 acre tract, you're looking at $5,000 possibly for the survey, maybe at the most. Soil sites, which are $500 each, so for about $7,500, you could probably make $100,000 more.
Yeah, and that kind of answered the next question, was how would you best prepare a piece of property outside of what Mother Nature gave you to start with, right. and that's kind of it.
Yeah, every tract has to have a soil site for septic if you're out in the country. Of course, if you're in town on sewer, it makes it great. I mean, it makes it easy. You can put it in smaller tracts if you want to. You don't have to depend on soil sites.
Yeah, two-part question here. What type of houses make for good auctions? What types of land are make for good auctions?
Well, on homes, any type of house will make a good auction. The problem is you can't be upside down on it. You can't be tied on your money as far as your equity. You need to have equity in the house. I like to see at least 20% equity. Any house makes a good auction, even a subdivision house in this market, because there's such a demand. Now, when demand slows and we have more supply, that's a different story. You want a unique home that, say, it's got 5 or 10 acres with it, it's out in the country a little bit, because there's not many of those for sale. It's all about supply and demand. And when you've got tons of homes on the market in a neighborhood, you don't want to take your house to auction in the neighborhood because there's 5 other homes or 10 other homes they can choose from. Now, if supply is low and you come up, there's only one house every 3 months coming on the market in this neighborhood, hey, that's a good auction.
Yeah.
Because it's a demand for that type of home. People are wanting there, and that's what you can have at auction. The more people that want it, drives the price up.
Yeah. Okay. Now, on the land side, what types of land, whether it be a big farm, or like we were talking about, land for lots, what makes?
I have seen the best return at auction mainly is on, well, if you take the big farms and divide them into smaller tracts. Everybody says, well, I hate it when they tear up a big farm. They sell it in all these little tracts, but they're looking out for the seller. Right now, 5 acre tracts are really hot in Rutherford County. They're really hot in the surrounding counties. You can't find them. So if you can take a 5 acre tract and sell it for $150,000, you as a seller, wouldn't you want that?
Yeah.
I mean, instead of sitting there and taking that 5 acre tract and putting it on the market and letting it sit there. Prime example, last year I had a 7 acre tract in Cannon County. It had been on the market for 3 months at $79,900. We had one offer. The lady turned it down. Well, after 2 months, she wanted to go to auction. We went to auction, got $107,000.
I know that piece of land. I showed it. So, but it was not my buyer who ended up getting it. Now, the other thing too, if you're a seller, an auction can make life a whole lot easier on you for a house, and tell folks why.
Well, house, land, or anything else as a seller. The reason being, right now in our market, you know and I know, Chip, home inspectors, appraisers, they're really harping, and these home inspectors are so afraid of being sued that they're overstudying conditions of the home. They're causing buyers to be afraid, they're causing deals to fall apart, and sellers are losing the deal. You know, they've been tied up now for a month, and they lose the deal because of a home inspector or an appraiser. Well, the good thing about the auction is the seller's protected. It's not contingent on financing, appraisal, or inspection. So as a seller, you get a stronger buyer because they require a larger down payment. Remember, earnest money is always refundable.
Right.
Down payment at auction is not refundable.
Okay.
So if that buyer backs out, defaults, they don't have a chance to get their earnest money back. That down payment is forfeited to the seller, and then we go to the backup bidder. I've only had to do that 2 times. Hopefully I don't like doing that, but there's times when you have to. But I've always went to the backup bidder, sold the property, and actually got more money for the seller because that first buyer defaulted. We just signed a check over to the seller.
And one thing too, you know, that is there a price point where it becomes less favorable for auction?
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends on the house. It depends on the property. Land, I would say no. I mean, land, if you've got a lot of land and it's good land, it all depends on the quality and the location. In real estate, location. Same thing with auctions. Now, if you go out here in a subdivision, you've got a $700,000 house or a $500,000 house in a subdivision, well, of course, there's not going to be as many buyers for those homes.
Right.
Once again, where's the demand? If there's demand, it makes a good auction. If there's not demand, there won't be a good auction.
Yeah. All right. So one last thing, as far as sellers are concerned, if you could put 3 bullet points out there that they needed to think about, if they're even thinking about selling some property, what would you tell them? What advice would you give?
Well, if you have a home, just remember, no repairs, as is.
Yeah.
Which is great. Larger down payment, and I'm talking, you know, on a $200,000 home, I'm getting a minimum of $10,000 down payment.
Right.
If you get an earnest money check on a regular listing, you're going to get $500 to $1,000,
Yeah.
which is refundable to the buyer if they default.
Yeah.
They have to agree to release it to you. And then on the third one, like I said, it's not contingent on financing. There's no contingencies.
Yeah.
So once you get a contract, once you sell it at auction, you're going to close on it before 30 days.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to be part 1, and that is dealing with sellers and auctions. And again, if you are someone who's considering, contact Greg, contact myself. And you work well with others when it comes time. But there's a lot of folks who have brought properties to you to sell who may be a client of mine or somebody else.
And we always compensate the referring agent 50-50.
Yeah.
I think that's only fair.
Yeah.
There's some companies out here that give them 10%, give them 25%. I always compensate the cooperating agents 50%.
Yeah, they bring you a seller.
They bring me a seller.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's it for today's Friday 5. You can look up my website at choosechip.net. Your website is?
GregoryGoff.com. Our auction website is exitauctions.com. That's with an S, exitauctions.com.
All right. Well, that's today's Friday 5. Next week, we're going to be talking auctions, but on the buyer's side. So be sure and watch for that.